It's Lefty.
Kiss my ass, you don't like it. It's my house.
It's the Lefty Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lefty Show, episode number 9. Oh, boy, we are almost at 10. It's been a long... It hasn't been a long time. That was exactly my point. Hasn't been a long time. Almost at episode number 10 already. That's interesting. That's a kind of a big milestone in podcasting. Because Woody kind of asked me about it once on PKA after That's Not Why He Called had taken a few consecutive weeks off. And it was kind of putting me on blast a little bit. You know, friendly blast. If there can ever be such a thing as putting somebody on blast in a friendly manner, that's what Woody did. And I think That's Not Why He Called was approaching episode, at the time, I want to say it was 20. I want to say it was episode 20 that we were approaching. And on Painkiller Already, Woody asked me, hey, what's going on here? They're taking I think it might have been 3 consecutive weeks off. Or 2 weeks off, or a week off, and then a show, and then 2 consecutive weeks off, something like that, 1 show in a month. And we started talking about how there are hurdles that podcasts get over. Anybody, in terms of, we're assuming here that there is viewership for this podcast. We are assuming that because anybody can make something that nobody watches. And it's not really a hurdle. Because if nobody's watching it, what's the point, really? The Lefty Show, as a daily podcast, the aggregate number of views have gone down because it's an hour of content at least, or thereabouts. I average probably about 50 minutes to an hour. Averaging about an hour every single day, probably 4 to 6 days a week. There's a lot of content, and there's going to be people who just can't catch up, or who just say, I'll catch the next one. I got other stuff to do today. If it was every other week, and that's the game that YouTubers or that content creators play. Do I want to be once a week? Do I want to be a video every other day? Do I want to be 1 video a day every single day? Can I do 2 videos a day? How do I maximize my viewership and not start to fall off? But you have to be careful of not mistaking a fall off in views for an absolute fall off in views, because 1 video a week is going to get a channel that uploads or anything, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a YouTube channel. It could be a podcast on iTunes. It could be something on a website, some other third-party website, Twitter. You host something and you point your Twitter at it. Anything that you do, if there's 1 episode a week, or 1 episode a month, that is going to get, when you go back and look another period later, when you go a month later and look back, that 1 video a month format, that 1 video is going to have more views total than probably any video you upload in a once a week or once every other day, and certainly every day, multiple and on, multiple times a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is going to be a view drop-off. There just is. Because what you're seeing is when you go back and look a month later and you think, shit, man, I uploaded 1 video this month and it got, it got 10,000 views. Well, okay, but if you start uploading once a week now, you're not going to see 10,000 views a week later. You're probably not going to see 10,000 views a month later because there's more content. Now, the game you have to play and the balance you have to strike is, am I overworking myself and not reaching as many people? Am I falling off and not reaching as many people as I could be if I kind of rolled it back? And so the Lefty Show has been, I think I've taken 2 or 3 days off. The Lefty Show has been pretty much week daily, I'll say that. Not week in W-E-A-K, but W-E-E-K week. Every business day of the week, usually there's a Lefty Show, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. perhaps Saturday, not Sunday. Sunday, I don't think I've done a Sunday show yet. And the hurdle is, can you keep it together for 10 shows? Can you keep it together and perhaps keep growing your content for 20 shows, 30 shows, 35, 40, 50? Once you start hitting hurdles like that, it's you've got something. You've got something. How big is it? Could it be? Well, those are different questions. But if you can hold something together in whatever context, if you can hold something together for these watermark iterations, 10 iterations of the Lefty Show, 10 iterations of That's Not Why You Called. So we're reaching, a lot of people wonder, well, why is 10? Is it just because it's a round number? Why 20? Is it just because it's an even number, et cetera, et cetera? Why all these benchmarks for episodic content? And at least from my perspective, it's because it's not that, hey, 10 is base 10 system, 10 is a pleasing number. I mean, I'm sure there's, from a psychological standpoint, I'm sure crap like that plays into it. I'm absolutely sure that crap like that plays into it. But it's more of the very fact that there have been 10 episodes of something says something, is a message unto itself. Not necessarily that they've been the 10 best episodes ever, but you or a group of people have set a schedule, you've decided on something, you're going to create something, or try to. It might be bad, it might be really bad, but you've decided you're going to try to create something, and you've set a schedule. You say, look, we're going to do this daily, every other day, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, and you've done it, and you've stuck to it, and here you are 10 iterations later, 10 periods later, and oh God, it just went there. Yeah, it just went there. 10 iterations later, and 10 cycles later, and you're still doing what you're doing. You're not falling apart at the seams. The wheels are not coming off of this thing that you've built. And so 10 episodes for a podcast, 20 episodes for a podcast. Perhaps it's more because I'm on a multiple times a week format. So perhaps for me it should be, I shouldn't start ringing any bells until we get to probably maybe 30. If we get to 30 episodes of the Lefty Show and people are still showing up, by that time I certainly hope to be on iTunes regularly, and people are still showing up both here and on iTunes, then this is a thing. This is something. But 10 is still kind of ingrained in my mind, and it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting point. So I'm excited to hear it. But this is not episode 10. This is episode number 9, on our way to 10. 10 might be tomorrow. Not exactly sure. We will see. I welcome all of you. Sorry for this late intro. I welcome all of you to the Lefty Show. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for liking and possibly favoriting and finding out how to favorite on YouTube if you can figure out how to do it. Thank you all for liking and favoriting, sharing with friends and families and coworkers. If you think somebody would enjoy a podcast, go ahead and show them this. Be like, hey, maybe you'd enjoy this. Thank you to everybody that's been donating. I greatly appreciate it. You guys are freaking awesome. And if you want to help out the show, and you want to help keep the show growing, you want to help keep the show free, you want to help get the show and keep the show on iTunes, studio improvements, just Lefty in general, you can go to imraising.com/643 productions. That's a little P in productions. imraising.com, great place to go. If you've got something you want to crowdfund or accept donations for, imraising.com is where to go. And if you want to help out the Lefty Show, once again, imraising.com/643 productions. That's a little P on productions. And again, the link should be fixed in the description. Hopefully, the link should be fixed in the description, unless I somehow screw it up again. Unless I somehow find a way to just absolutely fuck it up again.
Stupid bitch.
Hopefully, I'm not a stupid bitch. I don't want to be a stupid bitch and mess it up. So, Little P on Productions at imraising.com/643 productions is where you can go to help out the show. I got to get to this topic right now. I want to get to it. And by the way, for those of you that are wondering, I am feeling a little bit better. Still a little bit of congestion, a little bit of stuffiness, but certainly it's been progressing. It's been better. Haven't gotten a fever. My ear hasn't started hurting. That's been the big worry, is that I just don't want to get an ear infection and have to go pay for a doctor to be like, you have an infection. I'm like, I fucking know. Give me the antibiotics. But feeling a little bit better. Hopefully tomorrow. I said this yesterday. I said this last night as I was going to bed, but it didn't work out that way. Hopefully tomorrow will be a day where I wake up and just, I feel good. It's good. Hopefully that that'll happen tomorrow. But I got to get to this topic because I wanted to get to it since the Lefty show started. And I've had it up and wanting to talk about it, and it just hasn't gotten there. It's just the conversation never went that way. But for those of you that don't know, MLG, Major League Gaming, will have a Call of Duty event at the X Games. There will be an MLG Championship event at the X Games, and it is possible, as I understand it, for an MLG team to medal at the X Games. Coming this summer, this fall, this spring, this winter, if you this summer, there will be a Call of Duty Championship at the X Games. I don't even know where the X Games are going to be held. Probably LA again. It used to be they would switch it around back in the day, in the heyday of the X Games. Now remember, I was a kid when the X Games started, and I thought it was cool as shit. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I said, "Oh man, the X Games. This is sports geared towards me. These guys are doing cool stuff. You know, Tony Hawk trying to hit the 900 and invert best trick, and that whole thing where everybody just said screw the rules. Tony Hawk is the hallmark of our business and what we do. We're just going to shun the rules. We want to, and ESPN, I believe, ran long covering this, but we want to give Tony Hawk the chance to hit the first ever 900 on TV. I'm sure more people had done it by then, but Tony Hawk was the guy, and Tony Hawk really helped usher in the X Games and helped on their rise to prominence. And they just gave him the keys to that event for a while. And, watching him try to hit the 900, and Sal Masekela went nuts and everybody went nuts. It was really a great moment in TV sports history. Never mind, it was the X Games, and pretty much everybody but kids at the time was saying, this is fucking lame. What is this? These aren't real sports, et cetera, et cetera. But it was still just that connection, and that bond was really cool to watch. And I think it did a lot for the X Games. And to me, they've kind of fallen off. Personally, the X Games as a sporting event has fallen off. It no longer carries that luster to me. It's like, okay, they've got all the Moto X stuff, speed and style. I'm looking at the events here: speed and style, best whip, freestyle, men's enduro cross, women's enduro cross, step up, adaptive racing, Moto X racing, men's and women's. And they've got all that stuff, and some of the best things that I enjoyed have gone away. Vert skating triples, and vert skating best tricks, street skating, park skating, all that stuff has kind of gone away. All the old stuff that I really enjoyed, and it's gotten, I don't know. I don't know really how to describe it, but it's just moved away from what I remember, and I'm not as big on it. However, it's been big news in the gaming space of YouTube, and obviously the professional Call of Duty realm, that there are going to be professional teams at the X Games. I don't know if they're going to be in like a trailer or if they're going to be outside. I don't know. Are they going to add some kind of extreme element to it, to playing Call of Duty? I don't know. But they're going to be at the event playing as a championship event. It's going to be, I believe, another event on the MLG circuit. It just so happens that it's taking place at the X Games, perhaps going to be streamed on ESPN's website or wherever the X Games are streamed. Maybe make it to TV. Not exactly sure about that. And these guys are, I think, going to get medals. So you'll see your favorite professional. It's possible your favorite professional team or player, your favorite professional Call of Duty team will be seen alongside Travis Pastrana sporting X Games gold or silver, bronze, or whatever it is nowadays. And a lot of people have been having fun, making fun of this at the MLG's expense. And, you know, pardon that break. I had to, again, not totally 100% great, not totally 100% fine just yet. And I've joined in the chorus. I made a joke about the X Games, the X and X Games standing for extreme, and what's extreme about Call of Duty, et cetera, and just joking about it, because while it might be cool if you're a big fan of professional Call of Duty to see your favorite Call of Duty champion with X Games gold, keep in mind there are people riding 250-pound machines that rise up 60 feet in the air and do backflips. And there are people that you know, there was a guy that almost died when he left his skateboard after going 30 feet in the air and just plummeted straight to the ground. His shoes came off willy-nilly. They were like shock absorbers. You could see the conservation of energy happening when the guy hit the ground and his shoes just boom, flung off in a crazy direction. And Call of Duty, as pumped up as you might get watching Call of Duty, as exciting as it may be for you, I don't think it just doesn't have those kinds of things in it. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem, on first blush, Call of Duty and the MLG at the X Games doesn't seem like a good fit. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't fit. Where does it fit? I don't know. Me personally, I would just say to ESPN or to whomever wants to pick up MLG, because I think it does lend itself to TV. I mean, shit, people watch live streams of this all the time. Gobble this up. MLG launched their own streaming site and have recruited a bunch of talent and are probably going to be broadcasting their events on their channel, no longer Twitch. There may be Twitch as well. I'm not exactly sure. But suffice it to say, people watch Call of Duty events streamed as though they are a TV production, because that's I believe Ryan Puckett and Fwiz and all these shoutcasters, commentators on the show, and their shows have gotten very well produced, and people still watch it. People gobble it up. So MLG will lend itself to TV. I just don't think it will lend itself to the X Games, where everything's supposed to be. The idea being extreme this. Now, keep in mind, I made the joke, of course, that the X and X Games stands for extreme. But here's a few other events that were originally part of the X Games, no longer part of the X Games. Well, actually, Real Surf, which I'm assuming is surfing, is still a part of the X Games in today's version of it. But also, there were past summer events, such doozies as, let's see, BMX Flatland. That was a thing. Remember, it was just a parking lot, and a guy got on his BMX bike and kind of rode it around in weird, funny ways in the parking lot. And that was an event, and people got medals for that. There was also, let's see, downhill skateboarding or longboarding. There was also street luge, wakeboarding, and barefoot water ski jumping. Yes, these were all things that were originally included at some point in the extreme games. My point is this: not that these things aren't really sports or they don't take skill or anything like that, or anything of the sort. My point is this: is that while it's funny to joke, X Games extreme, what's extreme about Call of Duty? You know, you get blisters on your thumbs. Oh man, blah blah blah. While it's funny and you get a few yucks out of it, the X Games really are for alternative sports, not the Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, or for people at the British Isles and throughout Europe and well, actually the rest of the fucking world. soccer. It's supposed to be an alternative. It's supposed to be a place, or in practicality, while the name may say X and stand for extreme, in practical application, the events have all mostly been, and the origins were, of alternative sports. Alternative, if you want to call them activities, or games of skill, or anything like that. There were places for alternative. You would be, if your activity, if your sport was alternative and not accepted by the mainstream, you were likely and liable to find a home in the X Games. And that's come on. Downhill skateboarding, street luge, climbing, sky surfing, bungee jumping, barefoot water ski jumping. These are all alternative sports. Not really. What is sporting? What is athletic and sporting about bungee jumping? I mean, really. It really, in practical applications, has been and always will be about alternative sports, and I think that fits Call of Duty. Professional Call of Duty is an alternative activity, an alternative game of skill, an alternative, if you'll grant me this slight exception, a sporting game of skill. It's not an athletic sport, Call of Duty, professional Call of Duty isn't. However, it is a sporting game of skill. It is a competitive, and that's my pseudonym for, or synonym for sporting game of skill. And it's alternative, not accepted by the mainstream yet. In a few decades, I'm sure it will be, if Call of Duty is still around, or professional gaming in general certainly will be accepted in the mainstream in a few short decades. As of right now, it's an alternative sport. And while I still don't agree that it's a good fit for the X Games and just what the X Games tries to be, outdoor, in LA, in a big arena, or outdoor in LA or in a big arena where everybody sits down and watches, and you get the dirt and the people on the skateboards and the bikes and stuff, a bunch of guys sitting in front of monitors with controllers in their hands and earbuds in their ears doesn't really fit with all that. While I still agree that MLG and professional gaming should probably look elsewhere for its TV, to portray itself on TV, I can understand the idea. I can understand, and the X Games is kind of for alternative sports, and what is an alternative sport if MLG, professional Call of Duty, does not fit that? So I understand and applaud the idea. Good for MLG. They're trying to get a foothold in the TV business, which is dying, but still. They're saying, hey, we want to bring our product to a wider audience because we have found, in part, that our hardcore fans will consume this product as it is presented as a TV show. So let's try to sell it to a cable company. I would say, instead of the X Games, if the X Games things doesn't pan out, who knows? It might be a hit. I've been wrong before. Many times. But if the X Games thing doesn't pan out, and I'm thinking it won't, I could be wrong still, but if it doesn't pan out, I would say the perfect fit for MLG on TV would be what the World Series of Poker was around 2005 and into 2008. It fell out of favor quickly. The World Series of Poker did, but it was produced like a TV show. Fucking poker was produced like a TV show, commentated very well, just like professional Call of Duty is, and packaged and put on late night ESPN for insomniacs and the younger crowd staying up late, the college crowd, high school crowd, whatever. And people ate it up. Everybody loved. I personally, and many people I know, loved watching the World Series of Poker at 11 at night, midnight. That show comes on, you hear that distinctive little guitar riff thing, and you're oh crap, I can make some popcorn. I'm gonna watch people play poker because I like the time slot and I like the way it's presented, and it found a nice niche audience, and I think that would be perfect, and it's definitely possible and plausible for MLG to do something similar. So yuck it up, and it is kind of funny to think of a professional Call of Duty player, which, you know, let's be real here, probably isn't the spitting image of human athleticism like some of these guys who compete at the X Games are. Remember, Dave Mira and Travis Pastrana are just jacked because they've got to be muscling around motorcycles and bikes and stuff. While they're not the spitting image of athleticism, and that's kind of funny, you got to give MLG props for trying to find a home on television for their alternative sporting event. And I hope it does find a place. I don't think it will be the X Games, but I certainly do hope that it finds a place on TV, because again, I think I don't know, I think it will be able to find a place. I've been meaning to get to that, so I just had to talk about MLG on the X Games. Let's get into a little news. We got a lot of things to talk about today. Lefty show. We've got this little riff going. Got a whole bunch of new things coming your way. The defense of The defense of Boston bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev argued on Wednesday that statements he made to authorities after he was arrested should be thrown out because, while suffering from gunshot wounds, he was questioned for 36 hours in a hospital room without being told his rights. This is from an article on Al Jazeera America titled "Defense Says FBI Violated Tsarnaev's Rights." Let's get into the news with Lefty. So, Boston bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, I believe that's my best attempt at pronouncing it right, has been in custody and will be going to trial hopefully soon for his crimes last year, where he and his brother dropped homemade pressure cooker bombs at the finish or near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, and they were detonated, killed 3 people, injured 260 others. That's a pretty odd death to injury ratio. And I wonder what's the explanation of that, because usually when you hear about some kind of attack somewhere, when you hear about a bomb exploded in Afghanistan, a bomb exploded in Iraq or Baghdad, when it was occupied by U.S. forces, you would hear 5 dead, 35 wounded. There was always a difference, some scalar between the number of dead and the number of wounded. And I may be selectively remembering it, but it always seemed as though it was in some kind of range. That multiplier was always in some kind of range, usually not any more than 10. Right? If you got 10 people initially with the initial blast, the initial whatever, 10 people dead, usually the maximum number of wounded would be about 100. That's usually the maximum range that you would see in terms of difference between dead and wounded. However, 3 dead, 260 wounded is an incredible range. That's incredible, because we're talking about, what are we talking about here? Let's see. I gotta pull up the calculator. What is that ratio? That's an 86 multiplier. That's a hell of a multiplier to the number of initial dead versus initial wounded. And I wonder what explains that. Was it the type of bomb, where the bombs were placed? Does that matter? Is it the type of attack? Is it the density of the innocent bystanders around the attack area? I just always wondered, from a sheer curiosity standpoint, what is responsible for those disparities. And it seems to me that 3 dead and 260 total wounded seems like a pretty big range. I always wondered that. But anyway, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev in custody. His brother died last year during a shootout with police after the bombing. I believe it was the night of. Or maybe it was, I think it was a day later. Anyway, his brother ended up dying in a shootout with police. Dzhokhar got away for a bit, was hiding in a boat after he'd gotten shot. And then he was shot, fell out. The police cuffed him. They put him on put him in a neck brace. They put him on a backboard stretcher, took him to the hospital, whatever. And as his defense is alleging in court now from Al Jazeera America, his defense is alleging that his rights, the bomber's rights, were infringed upon. Because, and this was a story even at the time, that he was not read his Miranda rights, his constitutional Miranda rights, at the time of his arrest. You have the right to an attorney, blah, 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 blah. Anything you can say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Your right to an attorney, you cannot afford one at a time, blah, 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 blibbity, blah, blibbity, blah, whatever. And the federal agents did not read him his rights, neither at the scene of the crime nor in the hospital. And their reasoning for that was, this is a special exception because we believe it likely that there are other bombs out there and there is a public risk, and we don't have time to make this guy aware of his rights and have him clam up and ask for a lawyer. Because once you ask for a lawyer, as I understand it, it stops. Once you say, I'm exercising, and the Supreme Court ruled on this, that you have to actually say, I am exercising my right to remain silent, somehow it makes sense in the mind of supposedly learned men and women that in order to exercise your right to remain silent, you have to say something. You have to explicitly state that you are remaining silent. Otherwise, the fact that you refuse to answer questions can actually be used against you, which is, brain explodes on that one. But the special exception supposedly allowed the federal agents to continue to question him, even though Tsarnaev was saying, I want my lawyer, I want a lawyer, and hey, by the way, can I arrest? And originally, once they determined, there's all types of legalese involved with this crap. I don't even understand it. But I'm assuming that at some point, once it becomes reasonable that the police understood that there was no further public threat, there was no looming threat out there from bombs placed by Tsarnaev or his brother, that they would stop questioning, that they could continue to question and ask about bombs placed, and that would not be able to be used in court. But once they learned that, and once it was reasonable that they should have understood that there was no further threat, they, one, should have stopped questioning him, and two, any other information gained from questioning after that point is not admissible in court. And that is what Tsarnaev's defense lawyers are trying to argue in court. And they're trying to get testimony from Tsarnaev himself thrown out of court. Now, some people and some news outlets may try to sensationalize this and saying, Boston bomber looks to get off scot-free, might get off scot-free, because he's pled not guilty to all these charges. Now, here's the deal. And I saw this on Reddit, and it was perfect. Or I saw this response to a story titled as such on Reddit. It said, there's no way he is not going to prison for something. There's no way Tsarnaev is not going to prison, or is going to, at the very least, going to be convicted of something. Because not only the bombing, which, when you think about it, if we assume that there isn't some other phantom evidence of videos of Tsarnaev actually dropping the backpack with the pressure cooker in it, and that specific backpack was the one that detonated, absent any kind of that kind of evidence, proving that case seems to me, in terms of reasonable doubt, can you raise a reasonable doubt that this crime was committed by this person? And that's certainly possible, especially if there was any kind of confession after that 30 or in any time during that questioning phase by the federal agents, where he said, I want to remain silent, and they said, no, we are not reading you your Miranda rights. You are not Mirandized, I believe is the phrase or term, and you have to answer our questions. If all of that is thrown out of court, then it becomes certainly plausible that Tsarnaev may be able to his defense team may be able to raise reasonable doubt that he actually dropped a pressure cooker bomb. And that's certainly possible. Now, again, this is assuming that the guy can even get a fair trial, because his face from 3 to 4 days after the initial bombing, his face was all over the news, all over the internet. This is the guy was the narrative. This is the guy. This is the guy who we've seen on these footages carrying a backpack, and then who later in another picture was not carrying that backpack and running away from the blast. This was the guy who was apprehended after a shootout with police. Was he shooting? We don't know. And that's where the other part of him going to jail comes in, because now the evidence is, in terms of shooting at police officers, which is a big deal. It's a big deal to shoot at cops. Don't shoot at police officers. Just don't do it. You run away. Okay? If you're going to commit a crime and you want to try, you're assuming like crap, I want to hedge my bets that if I get caught, I'm not going to prison for the rest of my life. If you want to avoid that, don't shoot at police officers, because that really pisses them off. And rightfully damn so, they will come and get your ass. Look at what happened in L.A. Look at what happened in L.A. The L.A. police were so pissed that they were looking for one of their own who was shooting people up, shooting up cops. They were so pissed, number one, that there were officers that were shooting up a suspicious car that they suspected had this guy, Dorner, I believe. They thought that this was the car. First of all, it wasn't the right make. Second of all, it wasn't the right model. Second of all, it wasn't the right make. Third, it wasn't the right fucking color, and there were 2 old ladies in there, not some hulking dude. And they just, anyway, bam, 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 shot them up, messed those ladies up pretty bad. And not only were they so pissed that they went to those lengths, that they also were placed on paid administrative leave. Oh, well, oops, my bad. Put them on paid administrative leave. Hopefully those ladies get their freaking payday. I think one of them got a couple $1 million. So don't shoot at police officers, you dumbasses. They will come after you. However, it's no longer about, eyewitness testimony and there's this picture, that picture, this video, whatever. It's the police officers that will say, I witnessed Tsarnaev firing a weapon at other officers, which is attempted murder of a police officer or whatever the biggest crime is. And this guy, whose name has been all over the news, who was found at the scene of the crime, who says, no, I didn't. So Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is going to jail for something. He's going to jail. He's going to jail for a long, long time. It is possible, and people in the world need to ready themselves for the idea of he might be able to raise a reasonable doubt, assuming an antiseptic jury, he might be able to raise a reasonable doubt that he wasn't the one who dropped the pressure cookers or anything at the Boston finish line, at the Boston Marathon finish line. However, he still is probably most likely 99.999% going to be convicted of shooting bullets at police officers, which is probably the worst thing you can do when trying to get away from committing a crime. I'm assuming it's bad. Of course, you can go, well, stealing a loaf of bread from my family. But you've committed a crime where the cops are after you. If you want to get away or you don't want to go to jail for the rest of your life, either, regardless of whatever your end game is, the worst thing you could do, the absolute worst thing you could do is shoot at them. That's the worst. Even if you have a gun, don't shoot at police officers.
Stupid bitch.
Don't do it. It's dumb. You're just going to piss them off, and there's going to be more of them. And especially in today's society, they are going to be armed like the military. And that's another thing that I thinking about, reading about Tsarnaev's defense, and it's great. Here's the great thing, and I hope people are able to understand this. it's great that Tsarnaev is being tried in open court, and he is getting a spirited defense. That is great to see. That is fantastic to see. And everybody else should be happy to see that. That needs to be the precedent. That needs to be the rubric for all kinds of stuff like this. Tried in open court, and you're entitled to a spirited defense. I know, I mean, I thought this was kind of in the founding document, in the rule book of the club that we are all a part, well, not everybody listening, but most of the people listening are a part of. In the rule book, in our little handbook, it kind of says that's what we do. No matter what, that is, once you are in custody and no longer a threat, that is what we do. You're tried for your crimes. You're entitled to a spirited defense. That's what you get to do. And for some reason, we've allowed that to go away. We've allowed personal interest and emotion to rule the day and say, he should just be in jail anyway. He should just be killed. This guy should just happen just because. And I think that's bad. And it's good to see that we are allowing somebody who, in the court of public opinion, no doubt committed very heinous crimes. Heinous crimes. I do declare he committed heinous crimes. And he did. But it's good to see that he is being heard, he is being tried, and he is getting a defense. And that should not be questioned by anybody. It should not be, I don't even want to see questions of the attorneys. How could you defend this? How could you? No. Tsarnaev, despite his heinous crimes, is entitled to a spirited defense just like anybody else. Just like when you get caught drunk at a party and you're underage, just like when you get caught doing 100 in a 45, just like when you get caught with a little pot, and just like when you graduate to a little blow and all of a sudden now you're looking to get really fucked. You get a spirited defense, so does the Boston bomber. The relative magnitude of the crimes does not and should not matter. But anyway, the good thing that, or one of the things that I was thinking about after thinking about all this whole Tsarnaev and all this stuff was, I remember that time last year. I fucking hope so. I remember that time last year. And I remember seeing police officers walking the streets of suburban Massachusetts, which is where the shootout took place near the MIT campus, and then it spilled out into the suburbs surrounding the campus. I remember seeing sheriff's deputies and police walking around and looking like soldiers. They had body armor, they had ballistic helmets, they had military vehicles, they had military weapons. Assault rifle is a bad term. They had assault rifles. The same thing that legislators try to take out of the hands of lawful Americans because, oh my God, this is what the military uses, and it kills people. That's what these guys had, all of them. And they were just walking around, and that's all they had. They were kicking in doors, dragging people from their homes. Because we may think that there may be somebody in the area, we're kicking in your door and ordering you to leave your home so that we can occupy your... I think that's one of the big rules in our little handbook. I'm pretty sure... it's been a while. I may be wrong. I may be totally wrong here. But I'm pretty sure in that little handbook that I referenced earlier, there's kind of a rule, a big one of the first 10, that talks about removing people from their homes and quartering agents of the government for purposes of the government, militaristic. I'm sure there's something like that, but somehow it's all okay now. And somehow it's okay that we have not just Boston PD or whatever the residential area was. Not just them, but everywhere in America. There are municipalities, state police forces that are militarized, not armed. There's a difference between being armed and militarized. They've got vehicles that were in the Middle East serving, going and sniffing out bombs and transporting troops and armored vehicles. They've got them now. And they've got body armor. And they've got the hollow point bullets and the full metal jacket assault rifle rounds with the $3,000 scopes and the double taped mags and the extendable stock and all the things that would make Woody and Kyle pop a boner.
Bonerama!
They've got Bonerama in their hands as far as military hardware goes. They've got access to drones and all this stuff. And these guys, these not even weekend soldiers, these are police officers who get to pretend like they're in downtown Baghdad and they're serving no-knock warrants on people who haven't committed a crime, who haven't committed a violent crime. And they're kicking in doors, and they're trying to get bums out of the foothills of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they're just laying waste to people. Why is that a thing? Why is that okay? Because bad things might happen? Yes, bad things will happen, but it's bad to have every local police cruiser has a $10,000 assault rifle sitting in their trunk. That's also bad. They've got on-call armored vehicles and body armor all over the place. Can you buy body armor? Look it up in your state. Can you buy body armor? They've got ceramic, not just the woven Kevlar. They've got the ceramic stuff, the high-tech stuff. That video, which was equal parts cool and really creepy. There's a video. If you'll excuse me. There's a video taken apparently from the gun sights of an Al-Qaeda sniper. I believe it's an Al-Qaeda sniper. And I'm assuming it. I don't even know the guns. I want to say the Dragunov, but I don't. It's a sniper rifle. And you see an army guy standing by a Humvee, and you see the camera shake from the shot of the rifle, and then you see the guy get hit in his ballistic vest with the ceramic plating. And this guy got hit by a big-ass sniper round, which is moving really fast and has a lot of mass. A whole shitload of energy meant to kill humans or kill things. And it is absorbed and transferred. I mean, the guy's knocked on his ass, and he probably doesn't know where he is. He's got enough... he has enough of his mind left to crawl under the Humvee and get to the other side. But that kind of protective power, that kind of military-grade stuff is what police have. It's what sheriff's deputies have. And they're using it on people who may or may not have pot in their house, who may or may not have not paid parking tickets, may or may not have a crime serving a warrant on something, and may or may not be a gun owner. They're walking in there like it's downtown Baghdad. And I remember seeing it at the time. I saw it at the time during the whole Boston bombing, and I remarked about it. I said, what is this? Yeah, bad, Boston bombing, bad, dead cops, bad. Bad things happen. Why is there military walking the streets of Boston? That the bad things happening does not explain and does not, in my mind, justify military, no longer police, no longer sheriffs, military walking the streets of Boston, walking the streets of Middle America. And in my estimation, it hasn't gotten better. It hasn't gone away. And if anything, it's gotten worse. Because now those purchases of armored vehicles, they're subsidized. Yeah, they're getting breaks. They're getting gifted. They're getting at a huge discount, huge loans that they don't have to pay back or no interest loans to buy these mammoth vehicles and enforce the law. That's what we've got rolling on. And it hasn't gotten worse, or it hasn't gotten better since Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was running the streets of Boston, perhaps with a handgun. And I just don't see a need for it. And not only do I not see a need for it, I see very bad things potentially coming from that. Coming from, you can't have weapons, citizens, but the police are militarized. And yeah, you've got all these rights, you've got all these supposed rights, but they rest on the whim of the police. And the police are the military now. That doesn't seem like it's a very good idea for me. To me, it doesn't seem like that doesn't seem like it looks like it's a petri dish or culture dish for bad things to grow and for bad things to happen. There's some things that's been going on in technology this week. This is from Reddit r/Futurology. Some cool stuff. Some really cool stuff. But DARPA has announced they're working on brain implants that could restore memories in Alzheimer's patients. Now, despite the nice application here, the fact is that it's DARPA working on it. And I forget the actual name of the actual acronym of DARPA. But that's a government agency. That's a defense agency of the government, of the U.S. government, that is working on brain implants to help Alzheimer's patients. Sure. I'm sure that's one application. However, I want to be the one that, excuse me, I don't mean to tell you about your business. I'm sure very smart scientists who are working on this whole thing. I don't mean to tell you your business, because you undoubtedly know more about this than I. You're smarter than I am. I get that. How are you going to prevent this technology from being used in nefarious ways? If you're going to restore memories somehow in Alzheimer's patients, which is noble, how are you going to prevent that technology from being, I don't know, used for other bad things that other people may deem very bad? And I want to know, despite how smart these people are, undoubtedly smart they are, does it even occur to them? Does it even occur to them to think, hey, all right, I want to restore memories in Alzheimer's patients, and to do it, I'm going to create these brain implants to mess with brain chemistry, or remember buzz terms, neural impulses and all that kind of crap. I'm gonna build that, but I'm going to hope and trust that it's only going to be used for that purpose. That it's only going to be used for the purposes that I decree. That the technology is not going, and the math and all the things that I do, all the science I do behind this, isn't going to be used by DARPA to do things that the government wants that perhaps Joe Schmo American or Joe Schmo human wouldn't want. I mean, the guys that created the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer, and his whole crew, they were victims of the same thing. They got really excited about the idea of fission and how to do it, and implosion, and all the math and the testing and all that stuff that they were using to create the atomic bomb. And by the time they completed it, when they did the first test, then they realized, holy shit, what did we do? And they lobbied to try to have, they tried to get the government. They were working for the government to do all this research and do all this testing. And they were doing it, and they were doing it, and they were doing it. And the only time that they thought to have any kind of forethought on the implications of that technology and that research and that math. The only time they thought, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, is after they built the fucking bomb. And after it was tested, and after the generals got their, kill boners, they said, oh, hell yeah, let's go kill some Japanese now. And that's only when they thought, oh man, maybe we, a bunch of egghead scientists, should try to stop the federal government from using this technology that we had originally thought to be just kind of cool and etc. We didn't really expect it to be used to kill people. No. You just blithely going around and creating technology. Here's this new technological thing, new tech, doesn't seem, just going, yeah, the technology's cool. Yeah, it is. There's another thing on This Week in Technology. A new helmet delivers electromagnetic impulses to the brain to treat depression. I don't know how exactly it works outside of electrical impulses. It's some pretty cool shit going on right there. That's really cool. But if you can treat depression, if you can treat, I don't know, all kinds of brain chemistry issues with electrical impulses, let's say that helmet has Wi-Fi. Let's say that helmet has Wi-Fi in the newer version, in version 2.0. It now comes with Wi-Fi, so it can download the latest firmware update from the pharmaceutical company so that you can have a more tailored depression treatment. Okay, well now it's got Wi-Fi. And something that is controlling your brain, for lack of a more descriptive term or phrase, controlling your brain that's Wi-Fi enabled. Now, who might have access to? Who? I don't even know. I'm not saying the government. I'm not saying hackers. But something that is controlling your brain that has access to your brain is now Wi-Fi enabled. I'm sure that's going to happen. And I got flack during the lead up to the release of the original Xbox, or not the original Xbox, Xbox One, where I said, well, because you have to have a Kinect. You have to have the Xbox Kinect. You have to have the microphone and the camera on. It has to be connected and always, quote, always listening. And you have to have it, and also it always has to be connected to the internet. This setup, this system always has to be connected to the internet. And I said, I was one of the few that said, well, what if I don't really like having a webcam that I can't turn off, that I can't disable completely, that I can't just have not plugged in, and a microphone? What if I don't want those things connected and always connected to the internet? Now, of course, subsequently Xbox kind of reversed their position on some of these things. But the fact remains, the initial presentation of the product was, these things always have to be plugged in and always plugged into the internet. And I said, well, what if I don't want that? Maybe that's not the best idea to be putting cameras and microphones in the living rooms of unwitting Americans, and everybody, fuck Americans. Everybody who buys an Xbox One, who wants it to function, unwittingly is putting a hot microphone and a hot webcam connected directly to the internet. What if they don't want that? Maybe that's not a good idea to be forcing on people. And, oh, you're crazy. You have a tinfoil hat. Blah, 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 blah. And what really saved my ass was then all of a sudden we heard about Edward Snowden in the NSA. And we subsequently heard about just how fucking into everything the NSA is. They've got the keys to everything. And all I had to do, and all I have to do, is point to that and say, oh, well, yeah, tinfoil hat, right? Microsoft, one of the biggest corporations in bed with the NSA. Is it really that big of a stretch now in today's landscape of the digital world that somebody somewhere government or not, has access, if they want, to these kinds of things, not even to a live feed, but to data? Is it possible? Maybe it's not a good idea. So maybe, just maybe, while all this technology is cool, researchers create self-healing plastic that can regenerate over cracks and holes. Self-healing polymers. I was at the University of Illinois. I saw that demoed when it was still a graduate project. I was in the lab when that was being demoed because I went to go see a girlfriend at the time, and she showed me this thing, self-healing polymers. Sherwin-Williams was footing the bill. Now it's a big thing. It didn't just create it. It's been around for years. But all these cool things. SpaceX to launch upgraded Falcon 9 rocket tomorrow. Should we really have unregulated private industry going to space? Is that the best idea? Maybe. Just maybe. Just vomiting technology isn't the best idea. Maybe there should be a funnel on a nozzle on this. Maybe there should be some kind of vetting process where somebody who isn't involved with the project says, yeah, it's cool technology, man, but have you thought about this implication? Because who's picking up your checks, scientists that are creating brain implants to help restore / create / fuck with people's memories? Okay, because that's what they're doing. Fucking with people's memories via brain implants. Who's picking up on the checks? Who's signing those checks for you? Scientists. Who is it? Oh, it's DARPA, huh? So maybe vomiting technology isn't the best idea. Now, having said that, this I found funny. NASA has launched a live HD video feed of Earth from the International Space Station. Now, while that's really cool, that's just so cool, man. It really is. We can see Earth from a perspective that we could not, 99.9% of us couldn't possibly fathom when we began our lives. Couldn't possibly fathom it. And I went earlier today and I saw pictures in panoramas because I had never seen them before. I saw pictures in panoramas from the Curiosity rover of Mars. And I was like, oh, this is like New Mexico or something, right? This is the Badlands or something? No, that's Mars. That's actually what Mars looks like. That's really cool. That's so freaking cool. And the idea that there's now a live HD video feed of Earth from the International Space Station. I wonder what the bitrate is on that. A live HD feed, but all I can honestly think of is there's a bit from Wayne's World, the movie Wayne's World, where Wayne got his public access cable show picked up or sponsored. And they were going through, they were trying to change the format of the show, and they brought in a blue screen for a new bit. And they were going through, we can come to you live from New York. Hey, let's go to a Broadway show, all that stuff. And then there was one, they cut to another image behind them on the blue screen is Delaware. Hi, I'm in Delaware. And all I can think of is, hi, I'm in orbit. Welcome to orbit. Because it's not, it's cool, but do you really just, that's Earth. Oh yeah, there are clouds. It is kind of moving. They're moving really fast, but it doesn't seem like they're moving that fast because the Earth is so damn huge and they're so far away. And it's just, okay, look, kids, it's Big Ben. That's essentially what it is, oh, all right, that's orbit. Cool. Look, kids, it's Big Ben. That's all I could think. And hello, I'm in Delaware. Let's get a quick Would You Rather. I don't have a jingle for Would You Rather, but I just went to yourather.com and I found this is the first one that popped up, and I thought it was perfect. This is yourather.com. If you want, this could be a bit. We'll see if we can get a little mileage out of this. Here's the Would You Rather. Would you rather be a famous homosexual professional athlete, or would you rather be a heterosexual average person? Now, this is actually kind of deep. I don't think this was intended to be that deep, because Michael Sam is going to enter the NFL sometime this weekend. Sometime, at least on Saturday, Michael Sam will be the first openly gay, openly homosexual athlete to be drafted, not signed or not play, but drafted into one of the 4 major professional leagues, sports leagues here in America. And, well, that's perfect, because be a famous homosexual professional athlete. And also, there's a chance that there's a lot of, disliking and being scared of homosexuality kind of gets a bad rap sometimes. Acting on it, being bigoted because of your homophobia. Again, I'm defining terms. I don't care what homophobia actually is. Acting on your internal homophobia is bad and wrong, and you should be shamed for it. And I've got nothing for you if you are actively acting on your internal homophobia. However, I feel that, again, not that nobody uses my terms, but there isn't some kind of discrimination in that message. There isn't some kind of look. We are not telling you that you cannot feel these things internally, or that feeling these things internally is wrong, because that is wrong. Saying homophobia is bad. Well, what if I just don't like homosexuality internally? And whenever I see it, I internally just feel ill. Well, that's bad. Well, now you're thought policing. And thought policing is worse than any homophobic act. Thought policing is probably one of the worst things that we can do in a free society. And so you can out some people here. I'm sure there's some people that may be outed as homophobes, but if that's how you internally respond to the question, you just say, yeah, I don't like homosexuality. I internally think it's morally wrong. I'm not going to act on it. I'm not going to do anything about it. But I personally just don't like it. I find it to be disgusting. I'm here to tell you, despite what everybody else says, there's nothing wrong with that. When you act on it, I wash my hands of you. If you act on it, if you make a bigoted act of your internal homophobia, I got nothing for you. You will find no solace here. But if you come to me like I just feel these things internally and people are telling me that they're wrong, and it's like, you're not broadcasting them? No. You're not acting on them? No. Well, then fuck those people. It's okay. So, anyway, on to the question. Would you rather be a famous homosexual professional athlete or be a heterosexual average person? It's got to be homosexual professional athlete. It's got to be. Excuse me. Again, still not 100%. It's got to be a famous homosexual professional athlete, because here's my reasoning on this. Here's my theory. First of all, everybody's a little bit gay. Okay? Everybody has some affinity for cock. Every single male and female, well, I guess most females have affinity for cock. Well, every female has affinity for cock. Every male has affinity for... Everybody has affinity for cock. That's what I'm saying. On some level, I don't know how much, everybody has an affinity for cock somewhere. Do you watch all lesbian porn? Or the antithesis of that, or the flip side of that, for lesbians, because homosexual versus heterosexual is not gender-based. Or gender-specific, I should say. It is gender-based, but it's not gender-specific. Do you watch all gay porn? Or no. Hold on, I got to get this right. Do you watch all lesbian porn? Do you only like vagina? Or will you watch a beautiful woman getting pounded once and again? Or even a phallic object? Somewhere in your porn, lesbians, a phallic object will appear, which is a cock. And men, unless you watch all girl porn without sans phallic objects, sans cock stand-ins, you're watching porn with cock in it. On some level, everybody has a little bit of taste for dick. And my reasoning is that one, that's okay. You shouldn't shame it. If you accept it, it's just like, okay, yeah, I will watch a woman getting pounded by a dick because that's just, that's okay. You, in essence, on some level, like that dick. Well, that's okay. And if you were offered, you will be a famous professional athlete. Drop homosexual from it for a moment. You're a famous professional athlete. So that means, one, you're a professional athlete. You're probably making way more than the average person in America. Probably way more. Probably in the millions, perhaps tens of millions. Number two is you're a famous professional athlete, which means you probably have prospects for, for broadcasting, television, radio, acting, something after, or just promotion, business, whatever. You've got some prospects for after your professional career for making more money on top of your tens of millions, or perhaps tens of millions, millions we'll say, that you earn from your professional athletic career. Now let's add in homosexual. Well, everybody loves dick. Everybody loves a little bit of pussy. Everybody does. It's okay. So there you go. Everybody loves cock, and if you accept that part of yourself, you should have no problem. I'm assuming male homosexuals love cock, female homosexuals love vagina. If you have no problem as straight women, if you only watch male porn, that was what I was looking for. If you only watch male porn, you don't. There are women in your porn. So you love vagina on some level. So just embrace that part of yourself and you're a multimillionaire. There's nothing wrong with it. You can't help it. It's not anything. It's not a defect. It just is. Embrace it and you're a millionaire. Why anybody would say be a heterosexual average person, I don't know. It doesn't seem logical to me because on some level, everybody likes dick. Every heterosexual male likes cock, and every heterosexual female likes a little bit of chonch in her porn. And that's okay. And if you accept it, be a millionaire. It's no big deal. Oh, is that the time? I think it's time we wrap the Lefty Show. Thank you to everybody for sticking around. A little bit longer episode this time. Lefty Show, episode number 9. Thank you to everybody for joining in, everybody for liking, favoriting, subscribing on YouTube. YouTube's where it's at, youtube.com/LeftyOX. You want to stay updated on the show? Follow me on Twitter at Lefty643, or just go to twitter.com/Lefty643. Thank you to everybody for sharing with your friends, your family, your coworkers, helping the show grow as always, helping keep the show, or get the show and keep it on iTunes is what you can do if you go to imraising.com/643productions. That's right. imraising.com/643productions. If you want to donate, help out the show a little bit, that's where you can do. Link in the description. Thank you to everybody that's donating, that will keep on donating. It does help out the show, and I greatly appreciate it. A lot more for you to come. The Lefty Show will keep on rolling on. Have a good weekend. If I don't see you, hopefully on Saturday. If I don't see you, have a good weekend. Stay safe. We'll catch you next week. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I'm out. Bye.